Welcome to Love 2.0, an insightful conversation about God, love, and sexuality. Our mission is to educate, equip, and inspire you to experience the love you deeply desire and deserve. Our goal is to show men and women the intersection of God, love, and sexuality so you can experience life on a whole new level. That's Love 2.0. I'm your host, Michael Oden. Now let's dive in. So today's conversation continues our three-part series titled Three Simple Ways to Rekindle Passion and Love Within Your Marriage. In the first episode of our series, we discussed how your attitude affects your spouse. We discovered how you can make a difference in your marriage by simply focusing on the here and the now. And we shared some simple ways to be kind and loving to your spouse, regardless of the energy they're throwing your way. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, I highly encourage you to do so. Now, during today's discussion, we'll be talking about the difference between a commitment mindset and a covenant mindset. And we'll learn how each mindset impacts how you show up in your marriage. And as a sneak peek into our next week's episode and last installment in our three-part series, we'll be sharing a few simple ways you can literally ignite a burning passion and desire for love within your marriage. So now let's go ahead and jump into it and discuss what it means to have a commitment mindset versus a covenant mindset, and how these two states of mind affect your marriage. First off, let's define what a commitment mindset actually is. Now, in today's culture, there's two things for certain you're likely to see in the news, right? Famous people hooking up and famous people breaking up. If you follow the news with any level of consistency, you'll witness couples hooking up and being the world's most notable couple. I won't mention any names, but they'll be providing tips for how to have a great relationship. And if you watch and keep track, about 6, 12, maybe even 18 months later, that same couple will be splitting up and moving on to the next. On that same note, Hollywood is literally littered with couples who split after 10, 15, or even 20 years or more of marriage, only to cite irreconcilable differences. Now, I don't know about y'all, but my wife and I have irreconcilable differences at least once a day. She wants the AC on 68. I want it on 70. Of course, we end up putting the AC on 68. I just get a blanket. Or she claims she needs to run to Target to get a few things. And I politely encourage her to visit the basement to review all the few little things she's purchased from her most previous trips to Target. Now, y'all, my point is that married people have challenges and reconcilable differences every day of the week. But the real thing is, how do we deal with these roadblocks when they present themselves? Now, no one's implying that all couples must stay together forever, right? I know that's a great song by Al Green. But what I am drawing attention to is that the fact our modern day culture has made splitting up the thing to do. If one party gets pissed off by something the other does, I'm out. If one party wants a different flavor of man or woman, I'm out. Today's culture looks at relationships and marriages like we do disposable contact lenses. Once there's any hint of discomfort, we literally throw it out. So that's what commitment mindset is. It's temporary. It's subject to change. It says, I said I was committed to this relationship, but, it's no longer working for me. So, I'm done. That's commitment mindset. Now, let's take it to the next step and define what covenant mindset is. It's literally the opposite of commitment. It's a declaration. It means that no matter what happens, I'll be there, ready to make the most of whatever our situation is. Now, you still experience headaches, trials, tribulations, and disappointments operating from a covenant mindset, but you're dedicated to working it out no matter what. And that is the difference. Now, no one truly knows the inner workings of someone's marriage except the two people intimately involved. But I would like to commend two marriages that have, from the outside, showed a man and a woman sticking it out until the end. The first couple is Warren Buffett and his first wife, Susan, married for 52 years, didn't stutter. Now, despite the billions, you've never heard anything wild and crazy about their marriage. We all know people who have arguments and disagreements and they're thousandaires, maybe. Right? Some may be, 100,000 and maybe millionaires. Warren Buffett and his wife had billions, and you never heard anything about entanglements, children born out of wedlock, etc. And in fact, the reports reflect that Warren was so grief-stricken when during his wife's 2004 passing, he couldn't even bring himself to attend her funeral. That's serious. Now let's highlight one more couple. President Jimmy Carter and his wife, Rosalind, married for 77 years. I didn't stutter. 77 years, longer than many people have even walked the earth. Now, again, I'm sure they've had their ups and their downs, and I'm sure they've experienced some irreconcilable differences, but they both made it work, and they're still making it work today, 77 years later. Now, during an interview with People's Magazine in 2019, President Carter was asked about his secret to living such a long life. In the interview, he readily admitted he didn't expect to have lived this long, but he credited having a good marriage as the #1 secret to his long life. I highlight these public examples of long-term committed marriages to denote the fact we've lost the concept of covenant in today's culture when it comes to our marriages and relationships. With a commitment mindset, you're leaving the door unlocked, ready to be used in the likely event of unhappiness. But with a covenant mindset, the door is permanently welded shut. It's no longer an option. That's the difference between a commitment versus a covenant mindset. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do these two attitudes affect how you show up in your marriage on a daily basis? I'll give you a few examples, and these are just based on my personal experiences from the past, right? When you find yourself operating in a covenant mindset, you're likely to do or say one of the following. You might focus on the areas your spouse isn't showing up and allow that disappointment to affect your emotions and how you show up. Another example is you might find yourself thinking about or even researching divorce. Another one is if you have children, you might have found yourself at some point or another thinking about or even researching how divorce affects children. Now, also from time to time, you may even be Googling how much it costs to actually get a divorce. Here's another example. You might find yourself asking your divorce friends, would you do it again or was it worth it? Simply in general, you have this itch and you convince yourself that your spouse is unequipped to meet your needs. Now let's shift gears a little bit and highlight a few examples of conduct when you're operating in a covenant mindset. Now, one of the things that will acknowledge the fact that you're operating in a covenant mindset is you acknowledge the fact that your spouse has some growth opportunities, no doubt, but you focus on growing your own seeds of opportunity, and you start to see your spouse's shortcomings as just that little thing that makes them uniquely yours. Once I made the decision to accept my wife, Ayana, as is 100%, life got literally 100% easier. And in reality, me eliminating my expectations allowed her to grow. Now, another example is when you're living in a covenant mindset, you'll probably find yourself literally grief-stricken at the thought or announcement of another's divorce. In my experience, when hearing about friends or family members talk about going through divorce, it literally made me ill and brought tears to my eyes. Because in my spirit, I knew that the divorce was probably happening over something that could have been overcome. I didn't say avoided, but overcome. Now, in a covenant mindset, you'll also find yourself never researching anything about divorce because it's not an option. Instead, you're researching books, seminars, online resources, professionals, the whole gamut on who can help you make your marriage stronger and better. And lastly, when you've chosen a covenant mindset, you will literally begin to experience a peace you just can't describe. You're at peace about your marriage. You know it's not perfect, but you've accepted the fact that is perfect for you. Now, as we prepare to part ways, I'd like to encourage you to be honest with yourself and ask yourself if you're operating from a covenant or a commitment mindset. And I'd like to remind you that your marriage, it will experience ups, but remember, it will endure the downs. And with a covenant mindset, no matter what the reason or season is, you'll be committed to making it through to the other side together, and you'll be dedicated to serving each other throughout the journey. Now, when my marriage was on the brink, y'all, I had to make that decision. I had to make that decision in my mind and spirit. I had to ask myself, was leaving an option? Once I declared I would not leave, despite whatever challenges we face, I had to work with my creator, my wife, Ayana, and myself to ensure that whatever our challenge was, we tackle it and not let it tackle us. So in conclusion, if you are desiring and want to reignite feelings of passion, love, and desire in your marriage, I encourage you to establish a commitment mindset and close the door to all other options. Now, I hope today's conversation has sparked just a little something within you that leads you to seek out ways to rekindle love, passion, and desire in your marriage and relationship. And remember, y'all, Love 2.0 is not about Mike and Ayana. It's about you. So please share your stories below. All of us have one, and our stories are meant to help and inspire others. Also, inspire us with what you learned during your personal journey. And lastly, share tools and resources that can help all of us lead a better life, the life we truly desire and deserve. That's Love 2.0. I'm your host, Michael Oden. Until the next time, talk to you soon.